everyone, this is Kerry from Your Level Best, and today I want to show you a recipe that is healthy and is sure to bring you prosperity in the new year. And what is that dish? Hoppin John. I actually make this dish every year for my husband and I. Not necessarily because I think it will bring us new prosperity, even though that's what it stands for, because it's a darn good dish, it tastes great, and it's very healthy. So, Hoppin John is a southern dish. Now, I will admit, a lot of dishes from the south are not considered very healthy because you're talking about a lot of fried food, you're talking about a lot of things that aren't very healthy. But I made this dish from something that wasn't as healthy, I will admit. Hoppin John is not a terrible dish to begin with, but I made some tweaks to make it healthier, as well as lower sodium and better macros. So let me go over the ingredients in front of me and we'll get started on making this very simple and very healthy and tasty dish. So first I have the black-eyed peas. Now, these are what are considered the money. A lot of times in many cultures, beans are used to represent money and prosperity, and in this case, it's black-eyed peas. And what you want to do is actually, I strongly recommend that you soak these overnight rather than use canned. Not saying that you can't use canned for this, however, the flavor will be less because canned beans are already cooked, so they're not going to absorb a whole heck of a lot of flavor, but they are quicker. But when you're talking about soaking beans, they're going to be a little stiff, and these are still a little stiff. They're going to soften as they cook, and they're going to bring on some flavor. And I strongly suggest you soak them versus using canned because they are way more flavorful when they take in the chicken broth. I have a couple of quarts of chicken broth. I have some onions, some green bell pepper, and some celery. Now I doubled the amount of green bell pepper in this to make sure that it hit enough vitamin C. I also have some pork tenderloin. So this is a change from what a lot of recipes use. And the one that I like the best, and I'll be honest with you, is probably the worst for you, is using a ham bone. Where you get one of those bone-in spiral cut hams, you cut most of the ham off of it, and then you save the bone, put that bone with the remnants of meat in there, and then boil that with the broth as your base. And my God, it's good, but the sodium level is outrageous. So I've actually lowered it a lot by using pork tenderloin. I also lowered a lot of the excess fat too. But I do have a ham hock here because it adds a lot of smoky flavor, but it doesn't add a lot of salt. So you definitely still want to use the ham hock for flavor. I've got some garlic, some thyme, a bay leaf, a lot of pepper, and of course some pumpkin to make this full of vitamin A. So let's go ahead and start this dish. Now I have some olive oil here in my pan, and it's definitely hot. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take all of my vegetables and throw these in to the pan. And this will just take a couple of minutes to soften. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started, and I will show you the next step. So now you can see that I sweat these down a little bit. They're not fully cooked, but they've started to wilt, and that's all you really need to do. Get everything coated with oil. So I'm going to move the vegetables out of the way just to give a little bit of room, and I'm going to now add the pork tenderloin. So what this is going to do is I'm going to let this brown a little bit, and then once this is brown, which should only take a few minutes, I'll show you the next step. Welcome back, and the pork tenderloin is lovely and brown, and everything is sweated down beautifully. The rest of this dish, putting it together, could not be any easier. So it's really just dump and simmer. So I've got my soaked beans, which I'm going to dump in the pot. And let me just provide a little bed here and put in my ham hock. Nestle that right in there. And I'm going to add my garlic. Now I did not decide to saute this with everything else just because the garlic has a tendency to burn when you do that. So I'm actually putting it in later. And the thyme, the pepper, and the bay leaf, and the pumpkin. Now the pumpkin is definitely not a standard ingredient. You probably would never find anybody putting this in their Hoppin John, just because when I talk to, I have my southern friend, of course, Marcia, who you've met. She usually uses tomatoes. So we'll move this over a little bit so it's easier to see, and really the rest, just add in the chicken stock. Couldn't be easier. So really what we're doing now is we're cooking the beans, we're creating the flavors in the beans, and we're also using a lower fat meat, which will also gain flavor from all the ingredients. So everything in here should really come together. And one of the great things about this dish, it's kind of like chili. I'm sure you have eaten many soups and chilies and things. It's actually even better after it sits for a day. So what I'm going to do is just give this a little bit of a stir so I can get the beans submerged, get the pumpkin in there, get everything mixed up a little bit, because you want to make sure that it's mixed up well enough so that all of the ingredients will absorb all of the flavor. See, every time I make some sort of stew, it's not uncommon that I end up with a little bit of it on me. So, you know, I'm careful, but that doesn't mean I'm always as careful as I should be. As you can see, I just got a couple of little bits on the counter. So I'm going to go ahead and simmer this. I'm going to turn this on high. I'm going to boil it, and then I'm going to turn it down to probably medium to medium low, and let this simmer for about 40 minutes to an hour. Now, what you're looking for is a creaminess. There's not going to be a lot of liquid when this is done boiling. It's actually going to be quite thick. So really what you're looking for is a very thick consistency, and it may even need extra water, so keep an eye on it. You may want to go ahead and add a little water if it seems like things aren't cooked just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and simmer this for another 40 minutes to an hour, depending on how long it takes. I will shred up the pork tenderloin, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. See? Simple. Great dish after, New Year's Eve, when you're probably not in the mood to cook after all that partying. So, see you in a few minutes. Welcome back, and the Hoppin John is done. It took me a little bit longer to get the beans to get creamy, but if you take a look at a close-up of this dish, it is creamy, thick. The starch from the beans actually helps to make this a very thick sauce. So really when you're putting it over rice or putting it as part of anything else, it should come out with a thick sauce. I shredded the pork, and I took out the ham hock and the bay leaf, and this looks amazing. Let me show you what this looks like in the bowl. Let me take a good scoop here. And wow, this looks really, really good. And I hope you give this a try. It's a very simple dish. If you're not used to eating beans, you'll definitely want to give this a try, because this is a great way to try beans. I know a lot of folks don't like to eat beans, but they are a staple around the world, and there's a reason why beans are considered the thing that stands for prosperity during the new year. So I hope that you try this dish. Be cool if you tried it today. You can start your new year off right, and then watch our other videos for other healthy dishes so that you can keep making healthy food all year long, not just right now. So I hope you give this a try. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our other videos, check out our blog, and I'll see you next time.